people don't understand how quickly things are changing. And it's not anybody's fault because it's changing faster than honestly like any of us can really adjust to it. I'm spending half of my time, as I said, trying to understand how the technology is changing, how we need to work differently, and what the new opportunities are and what opportunities are shrinking or going away.
That was the one and only Dale Bertrand, the founder of Fire&Spark SEO, an SEO agency built just for the AI era. After just speaking at HubSpot's Inbound conference this last week, he's joining you and I to talk about AI search, overviews, and everything he is currently doing to stay on the cutting edge.
I tell people that AI search optimization, otherwise known as GEO, Generative Engine Optimization, optimizing for AI overviews, Google's AI mode, ChatGPT, Perplexity, that's what we're talking about. That is not a replacement for SEO.
What sets Dale apart and makes him a true industry expert is his focus on what is not the hype, but what's actually working. My guy is in the trenches, learning, talking to the highest performing marketers in the country, taking those, putting them to work for his clients.
Like AI changes things in that it changes the way consumers search for information about products and services.
I'm a huge fan of Dale because he refuses the easy answer. He's scraping communities and building strategies that are answering the questions that you have about AI, SEO, and GEO, and how fast everything is actually changing. As always, we're keeping you on the cutting edge and talking to people at the forefront and sharing those lessons with you at zero cost. In this episode of Marketing by Design, you're going to learn how to reframe SEO versus GEO and what each of those things actually means, what marketers need to be doing right now, and what Dale is doing to get his clients world-class results.
What I would advise you is you need to look into your market and your customers. What tools are they using? How is their search behavior changing?
And how he focuses Fire&Spark on being world leaders in just AI search and SEO.
We're getting the question a lot, like, how should I be optimizing for AI search platforms? That's really what people want to know. And the first thing there is...
You're listening to Marketing by Design. This is entry number 119 of the podcast. That's enough from me. Now, this is Dale Bertrand by Design.
I run Fire&Spark. We're an SEO agency in Boston. And I have a technical background. So I started my career as an engineer writing software, and I quickly switched over to marketing just because I was interested in the marketing side of the business as much as I was interested in the technology side of the business. And since then, I've done like a number of marketing projects at a number of businesses and started my agency. In the early days of our agency, we were a full service marketing agency doing pretty much everything, but we realized that we should focus, and we focused on SEO because we're world class at SEO. And we don't pretend to be world class at anything other than SEO.
I think that's a discipline thing. And you'll see the people that can have the discipline to say no to a lot of work, especially because a lot of the audience, like in the AMA, they are freelancers. They're sort of, if they're not in professional roles, they're maybe starting their own agency, starting their own company, having to say no to work when you need work. Staying very true to what you're best at is what I think allows you to get, outstanding, results and have this credibility and build a body of work that's positions you as the expert. You mentioned you started full service. What was the driver to go very deep into SEO and become, subject matter experts in just that? Like, kind of plant your flag there.
For us, running a full service marketing agency was a disaster because we were pretending to be good at things we're not good at. We were subcontracting out to experts in those areas that were good at those things. But that's a whole nother problem, like finding the right experts, coordinating with them. And then you're really not making the money you want to make when you're hiring people who are just world-class and awesome at what they do.
This has absolutely been a home run. We have a much clearer message, a cleaner website, and a high-tech feel that reinforces confidence in those interested in testing our platform. Andy was well organized, no surprises, and a pleasure to work with. That was from our partner, Andrew Holst, the VP of Growth over at Huckle. In case you guys don't know who I am, my name is Andy. I am the founder of MMG Design here in Columbus, Ohio, and I want to invite you to book a free homepage audit with us. Get 30 seconds to a minute of a tele video explaining your homepage, help you to get out of that fish and water syndrome that you may currently be dealing with. I invite you to take me up on this. I will not be doing it long because it is very time intensive, as you can imagine. Anyways, back to the episode.
So, but to get back to Andy, what you were saying around like when you're first starting as a consultant, you just need work. And
Mm-hmm.
I have a bit of a contrarian opinion where I think you should take as much work as you need,
Mm-hmm.
because you have to take enough work to pay the rent and keep the lights on and
Mm-hmm.
all that. So I think of it more holistically. Like if you're just starting out and you are trying to decide whether you should take a particular project, you've got to think at a very high level, will this project get me to where I'm trying to go? And if you don't know where you're trying to go in terms of what you want your consulting business to look like, or the type of work that you want to do, or the type of clients you want to work with, then fine, say yes. It almost doesn't matter, right? Like, because
Mm-hmm.
you haven't
Yeah.
really thought about it. But the key is to spend as much time as you can, like to really nail down, well, what type of work do I want to do? And it is
Mm-hmm.
possible that a project that's outside of your bullseye is still the right project for you at this
Mm-hmm.
time to get you where you're trying to go. Maybe it just keeps the lights on for like another few months, or maybe
Mm-hmm.
you're learning something related to what you want to ultimately be doing. But you really need to be thinking about that, like have a North Star and figure out
Mm-hmm.
whether this project is going to help you get there.
Yeah, so good. I think a good sort of metric to have is if it's like 10% outside of your comfortability, your skill level. But there's also these like variables and like external factors. Like this could be an industry I want to get more into,
Yeah.
not so related to services. It could be there's a really good connection here. I can build a lot of social proof. This could be credibility for the business that I can leverage in a different way. I found in my company 2.5 years ago, and this is stuff that I'm learning like every day, like what projects you want to take on, and also having like a bigger picture vision for what you want the company to be and getting self-aware on that. If you could like rewind, 15 years ago, would you say Fire&Spark as it is now kind of aligns with your vision that you had back then?
That's a very good question. If I'm honest, at the very beginning, I didn't have a vision other than I knew I wanted to learn more about digital marketing, and I knew I wanted to work with people that I was excited to work with, and I didn't even know
Hmm.
like who they are or what they were or anything like that.
Yeah.
Our vision has evolved over the last 15 years that I've been running Fire&Spark. And to be honest about that, like we felt a lot of pain at various times. Like pain when we took on the wrong projects, pain when we failed to deliver something that we promised, pain
Hmm.
when we hired the wrong staff and we had to let somebody go. Like there's just a lot of pain and a lot of learnings from that pain. And
Yeah.
I know that there are people listening to this who are smarter than I am. So maybe you can um, have some experience, some success, right?
Hmm.
As a consultant or a marketer, without experiencing the pain of making those mistakes. But so much, like even when you're talking about like what clients do you take on, there's a pain of like needing another client, needing to pay the rent, needing to make some income, versus the pain of working on a project that you're working with the wrong client, or it's not your expertise, or
Hmm.
you feel in the back of your head like I'm not going to be able to deliver on this. Like both of
Yeah.
those are painful. And like we didn't have the discipline to uh, really focus on only signing the right clients until we had felt the pain of signing the wrong clients.
I think part of it is acknowledging too. You kind of have to choose your hard. Like it's going to be hard either way. In the long term, it becomes more sustainable to sort of plant your flag and say, okay, this is what I want the vision of the company to be, and this is how we're going to actually add the most value to the people that we choose to work with. I've heard this analogy. You want to be T-shaped, so you have a base knowledge of skills and like all things marketing, all things, creative, and then you choose that one thing where you go like super deep on, you really dig the hole there. And when I see Fire&Spark, when I see you at your events and speaking and how you go super deep into, SEO in particular, that's what I see. I see someone who has very much committed to being the subject matter experts in one thing. And by the way, I can't not point out, because I was researching for this episode, people go to the Fire&Spark website, fireandspark.com, see the timeline on the about page. The very first event, Dale Bertrand completes a supercomputer design and build for a top secret US government project. I want to know about that, but I also want to know like what how we got from there to going super deep and niche on SEO.
I love technology. So I
Mm-hmm.
studied engineering undergrad, and it was computer engineering. So I was building computer hardware and also writing software. And then grad school was also engineering, but I focused on AI. Had worked on some AI projects, spent a little bit of time in the AI lab at Brown University. And then after school, I was working as an engineer and building machines, everything from printers to cameras to a supercomputer for the US government. So that was a project that I love to talk about. But because it's declassified now, I didn't even know what the machine was for when
Oh,
I was
nice.
working on it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but then from there, I really wanted to make a hard pivot. Like I worked for about 10 years as an engineer building computer hardware. But the
Uh-huh.
hard pivot that I wanted to make was into marketing because I had some exposure to the marketing side of the businesses that I was at the time. And digital marketing was really starting to become a thing in the early 2000s. So
Mm-hmm.
I was super curious about it. And I also had a sense that I wanted a career where I could learn more and meet more people, and it was more relational and more
Mm-hmm.
relationship driven than sitting in front of a computer and typing code all day. I
Yeah.
loved sitting in front of a computer and typing code all day, like I was addicted to it, but it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't 100% healthy for me. So I moved over to marketing where everything was new and fresh. Like um, I was learning concepts for the first time, and I loved being a beginner in that field. And I was
Mm-hmm.
around like 30 years old, right? So I was
Mm-hmm.
still that was 20 years ago, but um, I was 10 years into my career when I made that switch, and I had learned prior to that I had learned so much. In my technical career, I felt like I was becoming an expert and I didn't like that feeling because I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't learning as much. So I
Nice.
flipped over to marketing. Now I'm learning like a new field from the beginning. And I made another pivot actually where like I started to see myself as more of a business owner and consultant than a marketer.
Mm-hmm.
And I started learning around how to run a business, how to manage people, how to hire people, how to um, optimize like the operations of a business and how to do financial management of a business. Like there's so much there.
Mm-hmm.
And then like the skills, and I know some of the people listening are consultants. Like learning how to be a good consultant is hard. Like learning how to say no, how to push back on requests that are out of scope, how to write a good scope, how to like
Mm-hmm.
there's just so much there too. So I really enjoyed learning those skills. And then, and just a little bit of foreshadowing here, then
Mm-hmm.
AI came along.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yep.
there's just a lot of interesting things.
Hmm. It always makes so much more sense when you hear someone else tell their story rather than you telling your own. I know every time that I feel like I try and unpack like how I got started or what led me to do what we're currently doing now, it always feels so jumbled up. But then I hear someone like you put it together, it seems like, oh, seems like a logical progression from one thing to the next, even if where we started is totally different from where we are now. But sort of circling back on SEO and AI, what sort of a wrench did that throw in terms of what you were currently doing at Fire&Spark? And how are you acting on all the changes that are happening on that front now?
Yeah, so then AI came along. That was like the
Mm-hmm.
foreshadow, and that was a. And I'll be honest with you, like I was getting bored of SEO and running an SEO agency.
Mm-hmm.
But then everything changed. Like AI changes things in that it changes the way consumers search for information about products and services. And it changes the way the marketing platforms were optimizing for work, like Google and Facebook and a million other ones, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it also changes the way marketers do their work, the way that we do our jobs. And each of those things on their own would be a seismic shift, right? But they're all happening at
Mm-hmm.
the same time. That's
Right.
why it's such a huge transformation. We started at my agency 3 years ago, really digging into how AI, and this was before ChatGPT,
Mm-hmm.
digging into how AI would change the way we do our work. And that's been a slow progression over 3 years. And I love the fact that that's kind of building up steam,
Yeah.
using various tools, using the right tools, building out AI based automations. Like there's just a lot there. We're starting to
Mm-hmm.
deploy AI agents for different things. Like there's a ton there. But then when
Mm-hmm.
it comes to Google, I mean, Google's making some huge changes like AI overviews that's stealing traffic. And soon Google will be rolling out more AI mode
Yeah.
features. And then we're also tracking how people are using ChatGPT to search for products and services. Like that's absolutely huge. So we're optimizing for those things. But
Mm-hmm.
then consumers are changing the way that they search. And the complicating factor about that is that it's happening differently in every market. So you might, as a marketer, you might be hearing, oh, people are typing in longer searches. They're using platforms like ChatGPT. They're using tools like deep research to research product decisions. All
Mm-hmm.
of that is true, but what I would advise you is you need to look into your market and your customers. What tools are they
Mm-hmm.
using? How is their search behavior changing? And
Mm-hmm.
you're going to do that by talking to your customers, looking at your analytics, all of that, and that's really what matters for you, rather than what I say, in an
Mm-hmm.
interview about how your customers are changing. Like, you need to figure that out. I consult with clients who are in like consumer facing, let's say like an e-commerce business, and then also in a B2B business where they might be selling industrial water filters to the billion-dollar industrial plants, right? And
Mm-hmm.
those are very different sales with very different target markets. And when we talk about things like, well, how are they using AI? What platforms are they using that might be changing because of AI? Like, it's going to be different in different
Mm-hmm.
markets. That's really the first thing for people to wrap their heads around.
Yeah, that's so good. So I'll start with the obvious one is when you have this abstract topic that's like always changing, when you're talking to your clients, how are you explaining it to people who maybe are unfamiliar of the industry and the changes? What's like the 301 version of how you guys would unpack a strategy like that?
So the first thing I do is kind of like what I just talked about, where I want to make sure I explain to them there's three different aspects here, so I understand which aspect are you talking
Mm-hmm.
about. And sometimes they're coming to me saying, Dale, how should I be using AI tools? But really, we're getting the question a lot, like, how should I be optimizing for AI search platforms? That's really
Mm-hmm.
what people want to know. And the first thing there is a little counterintuitive, which is like, I
Mm-hmm.
tell people that AI search optimization, otherwise known as like GEO, we're going to call it GEO, so Generative Engine
Mm-hmm.
Optimization, optimizing for AI overviews, Google's AI mode, ChatGPT, Perplexity. That's what we're talking about. That is not a replacement for SEO.
Mm-hmm.
And when people hear that, they're like, okay, wait, what are you talking about? Like, I thought that was the next version of SEO. I thought that was like an add-on for it. Like, I don't really understand what you're saying. And what I'm saying is, like, the reason why we all did SEO for so long and we put so much resources into it is because it worked. And specifically, it worked at driving traffic to our website that converted. It was
Mm-hmm.
driving people to our website who had intent. They were looking for the type of product or service that we sell. They would land on our website, and maybe they click a buy button, maybe they fill out a form, maybe they want to talk to a salesperson or do a demo. Who knows what it is? But that was converting traffic.
Mm-hmm.
GEO is different in that it actually sends traffic that's higher quality, more likely to convert. It just sends
Mm-hmm.
much, much less of it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first challenge. And then the
Yeah.
second thing is, it's not as good at delivering high quality traffic as it is at helping to expand your footprint online, like expand your brand visibility. And then also
Mm-hmm.
there's a reputation management piece of it, which is
Mm-hmm.
if there is information in these AI platforms that is inaccurate or just negative, or for whatever reason you want to change it,
Mm-hmm.
you can use GEO to influence what these platforms say about your brand. So what this all rolls up to is that SEO was better at performance marketing than brand marketing. And the new world of GEO that we're moving into, we have this GEO that's a tool that's better at brand marketing than it is performance marketing. And that's the first thing I want
Mm.
people to wrap their heads around, because they might be thinking that GEO is a plug-in replacement for SEO. And that's not true if the only thing you want out of it is direct conversion on the first click.
Yeah. From my understanding, it starts with a lot of these universal marketing principles. Okay. Where are your customers searching for you? A lot of people say in construction, probably aren't using ChatGPT or they're not viewing on browser. You're probably catering a different strategy based on where the ideal customers are and then routing that backwards. That tidbit that you said of GEO being more brand centric rather than performance centric, I don't think I've ever heard that before. When I think about it, it makes sense because GEO is better at doing complex thinking. It has more emotional thought processes, for lack of better terms. It can more understand the brand emotion side of things, more
Okay.
so than just maybe Google or SEO scraping schema markup, like reading code on a page. I think
Okay.
when you have like this new exciting way of getting found online, I think it's a learning about these things. Okay, what are the actions that I'm taking in the meantime? Like where am I appearing now? But for the audience, what are 1 to 2 things that are like the lowest hanging fruit to say, okay, I'm starting to optimize for these changes and I'm starting to go to where the puck is headed a little bit. What are a couple of actions that you can recommend?
Really, the first thing is you want to understand how your um, how your market is changing, like how your customers are searching differently, what information they need. There's a possibility that they're searching for information they weren't asking for before because they're realizing that they can ask more complex queries. Like an example that I give on stage
Mm-hmm.
is like I used to ask Google for the best restaurant in Seattle. And what I was really looking for was a restaurant in Seattle where I could take one of my clients out to lunch, and it has options for somebody like me who's lactose intolerant, and it's not too expensive because this isn't my best client. Nowadays, what your customers will be able to do is to ask those complex questions to something like ChatGPT. And if you can uncover that either by talking to your customers or looking at the longer queries we're all now seeing showing up in our search console, then we can just build better content. The other thing that I would say is if you're used to doing SEO and you're concerned that SEO is going away, think about how SEO is really content marketing at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Content marketing has existed before the web, before the internet. It
Mm-hmm.
existed hundreds of years ago when, I don't know, Benjamin Franklin was writing pamphlets and distributing them on the street, trying to get people to buy his newspaper. I'm making that up, but content marketing has been around for a really long time, right?
Uh-huh.
SEO is really an extension of that. Like because of the way Google worked for a long time, we've created a certain type of keyword targeted content because it worked. But that's not going to work as well anymore. But content marketing is still going to work. So we're still going to have a content strategy. We're still going to develop content, but that needs to be content that is useful on a number of different channels. It's going to be useful for traditional search engines to drive customers and for new AI search engines and social media and our email and our paid campaigns and our partnerships and the events that we attend. Like it's just across the board. Like that's content marketing. And I think a lot
Mm-hmm.
of us might have entered the digital marketing field when there was this really easy keyword targeted article opportunity to generate
Mm-hmm.
customers and do customer acquisition. And then we lose sight of some core principles of marketing around content marketing. So just like
Mm-hmm.
elevate your thinking, like continue to to execute on your content strategy, but now you're going to have multiple channels where you're going to be measuring and expecting to get results on it. I made this up, but somebody else made it up before I made it up around keystone marketing, where there's like that keystone activity that you're doing. That might be a
Mm-hmm.
podcast if that's what you love doing.
Mm-hmm.
Some businesses are really good at content or paid ads or something like that. But what I imagine in the future is like instead of starting with keyword research so that you can generate a lot of SEO content, you'll be starting with something like participating in a niche online forum where you could learn a ton about the nuanced questions
Yeah.
that your customers ask and their needs. And you start to identify different personas. Like that's like marketing 101 or customer research
Yeah.
for marketing 101. But
Mm-hmm.
a lot of marketers, depends on what generation you came up, weren't trained that way. Like they are
Mm-hmm.
reflexively the very first thing they do for some people.
Yeah.
Going to a keyword research tool or going into their search console account to see what people are typing into Google. And that's just not going to cut it. It's not going to cut it going
Mm-hmm.
forward.
Yeah.
We
That's
love the idea of starting with a niche community. Maybe it's a subreddit or a
right. Yeah.
Facebook group or a Slack group. And yeah, you're probably going to have to pay for it, but that means you're going to get even better information about your
Right.
company.
Yeah. We had someone on the show 2 weeks ago who was dabbling in Reddit for his own client base. He just took me through his whole process, and this was fascinating to me. He was working with a realtor, and so he was basically entering like r slash, location, city, name subreddits, and literally just adding value to the conversation as a realtor. So talking about things like the best restaurants to visit, um, people that came from all these different scenarios. He could kind of pattern match. Okay, this is their exact thought process around, am I vacationing here? Do I have a family? What are my exact needs? And you can literally just answer those questions as the expert, or not even answer them, just show up and like add value, respond to their comment just because you know the area that you do best, especially in B2B. A lot of like high value purchases, transactions, is you can build trust on a level like that where people are just showing up naturally as humans and connecting with them at that time, at that place. That's where you start to see some pretty incredible results. And on the side of that too, just getting to know people when they have their guard down. You're not suit and tie buttoned up. When you're approaching it like a community, a subreddit, your language is much more reflective in terms of what's actually going on inside your head. You get a much more clear vision of what people actually want and what they're thinking.
That makes like perfect sense. I do want to draw one distinction. Is that like Reddit is not the only niche community like platform out there.
Mm-hmm.
There are many others. There's Slack and Facebook and one called Mighty that we were on, right?
Yeah.
And then the
Yeah.
other thing that's important is what you're describing is participating in these communities to build trust, answer questions, and eventually you're generating leads or customers or whatever, and that's great. But
Mm-hmm.
there's also just listening in these communities. And I feel like a lot of times when you mention, hey, you should take a look, see if you can find any niche communities where that you could hang out in. A marketer might say, really? Like, are you kidding? I do not have time to add Reddit
Mm-hmm.
as another channel where I'm like answering people's questions for an hour or two every day. But that
Mm-hmm.
is not the easiest way to get benefit from a niche community. The easiest way to get benefit from a niche community is just lurking. And lurking
Yes.
is okay. Scrape it. See what questions people are asking. And I can tell
Yes.
you that we've in the past, there might, and I'm thinking one off the top of my head. I'm not going to say the name of it. The niche community in a space that we care about. We want to understand how customers in that space are searching for specific types of products and services. So we scraped all of it. It happened to be a Slack community,
Mm-hmm.
and we have a prompt that will look for, is anybody asking for help? Well, what are they asking for help with? Is anybody expressing emotion? Which might sound like, I love blah, 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 or I can't stand
Mm-hmm.
it when they blah, 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 and just scrape
Hmm.
all of that out of the community. Every single one of those is a content idea. And
Dude, that's
that's
so good.
lurking and listening, not participating. So when you're lurking and listening, like you get to decide, is that a one-time project? Is that an ongoing monitoring? Is that sending your intern in there? Is that you just blocking off a couple hours to do it and then move on?
Mm-hmm.
That's very different from participating, which feels to a lot of people like a 1 or 2 hour a day type of activity. And
Yeah.
it's very valuable. You just might not have the time for it.
I didn't expect to be talking about Reddit so much on this show. That's awesome, and I love that, and that was a very lean-in moment for me. I want to talk to you too about more you. What do you see your role in the company as now? I imagine a lot of it is speaking engagements, driving awareness, but also how much of your time is spent in the business versus actually learning and researching and staying on top of all this stuff now, and how do you balance that with everything else?
Yeah, well, I'm lucky because I can spend half of my time learning and researching, and really what I'm doing there is I am researching for conference workshops and talks that I do throughout the year, because I do one or two a week when you count like the virtual
Mm-hmm.
conferences. Some weeks it's three or four in terms of like
Mm-hmm.
workshops or conference sessions that I do. And because I'm covering AI and AI search, like that stuff is changing on a daily basis. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
constantly updating.
Right.
And then the other thing I'm doing with half of my time is innovation, which is looking at the way that we do our work on behalf of our clients
Mm.
and trying to figure out better ways to do it. And when I tell people about that, they're like, "Oh, I get it, I get it." You're trying to figure out how to write prompts that'll save you time. It's like, no, we're trying to figure out how to do better work and how to do analyses that weren't possible before. So there's
Mm-hmm.
definitely a lot, like the thing I just told you, like scraping a niche community and then writing prompts that extract specific questions and emotional statements that they make. Like that's something we couldn't do a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of stuff like that that's out there. So I'm able to spend half of my time on researching and writing and looking at new technologies and how we can deploy them. All of that I call innovation because it's about trying to figure out what's next.
Nice. So you say you bucket about half your time just towards learning new things.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah, I'd love to hear that. Tell me what your inputs are. I know a lot of it's probably you guys at Fire and Spark. You do a very good job of having your own proprietary research. So you're kind of the very top of where a lot of this, industry changes and information is coming from. Um, but what are your inputs at? Where are you learning from? Maybe it's newsletters, maybe it's just being the one in the seat thinking, okay, I am XYZ customer. I'm going to go through this customer journey myself. Talk to me about your research process and, where you're learning.
Yeah, when I think about that, I think to myself, well, we look at everything, but what does everything mean to us?
Hmm.
And we work with clients, so we're doing work on behalf of clients and learning about what's working, what's not working. So when you work with 25 clients at any given time, you're always trying something over here that if it works, some other people who could benefit from it. So that's
Yeah.
huge. But then also I do a lot of conferences, as you know, usually like I'll do like 2 in-person conferences a month, in addition to like a whole lot of virtual stuff. But when I'm in person at a conference, I learn a ton because I love running. I did a 3-hour workshop in Minneapolis last week, and I run that very conversationally, and
Hmm.
that is like selfish in a way because I want people to walk away feeling like they learned something valuable. But I also want to learn like what's working for them, what questions they have, what do they not understand, what are they afraid of. So I love running those interactive sessions where I learn as much as the people in the audience learn, and I learned a ton from the one
Hmm.
that I did last week in Minneapolis. That's why I'm excited about that. And then we have our own technology, so like crawlers and scrapers and technology that will measure the performance and really track the performance of changes that we make on behalf of our clients on sites.
Hmm.
But then also we look at brands who are not our clients who happen to be doing really well. So if there's a market
Hmm.
where we have a bunch of clients, like we happen to have a bunch of clients in the digital health space right now, so there are several brands that we're tracking that are not our clients, but they're
Hmm.
doing something right. Like we're tracking them because their organic traffic is accelerating. So we spend a lot of time just like set up how are we going to monitor that, what's going on there, um, and that's huge. And then there's also the usual suspects on LinkedIn who publish a lot, and people who have various newsletters. I think it's important to search online for information, and when you find an information source that you enjoy, that you learn something from, then hey, subscribe to that newsletter. You can always unsubscribe if they honor that.
Hmm.
Same thing on LinkedIn. Like I learned not too long ago that I forget what the button is, but you can follow specific individuals on LinkedIn rather than just
Hmm.
getting a feed based on your interests.
Yeah.
So now my feed is specific people, like because these are people that I want to know when they post something because I always learn something. So you're just
Hmm.
trying to like if you read something, you learn something, dig into it, and then add that to your sources of information. Because there's a lot you're gonna run across in terms of information in the digital marketing world that's just not that useful. So just move on. No
Yeah,
need
I
to
know.
subscribe, right?
Yeah.
But there's just so much information out there, and some people have really gotten stuck. Like some people are really stuck in this SEO echo chamber of like, yeah, and it's in response to people saying that SEO is dying. Like it's not dying, it's
Hmm.
changing. It's evolving into GEO, and GEO is not the same type of tool that SEO was. It's actually quite different. But there are people who are stuck in this echo chamber of like SEO information where they're trying to figure out, okay, we can't do link building anymore, so now we need to do digital PR for mentions, and that's a plug-in replacement. No, it's not. It's actually a different
Hmm.
tool for a different use case. Um, but yeah, people who see their identity as SEO want to continue to see their identity as somebody who's an
Right.
SEO.
anything that threatens your, and we're acting on a lot of the same things in the design world too, because so much is changing there too. A lot of times it's something that threatens their old process, old way of doing things. There's a ton of SEO agencies out there that are slower to move on this stuff because they almost don't want to admit how fast things are changing. It's so hard to learn on the fly of also running the business and using it to, I mean, do you ever have a conversation sort of setting expectations saying these are some of the things that we're going to try? A lot of this is, experimental in terms of how fast this stuff is changing. Are you ever having conversations like that?
Oh yeah, all the time. Because I mean, ever since I started doing consulting, clients will come with expectations that I can't fulfill, and it's on me
Hmm.
to help them understand as best I can what I think is possible, and if maybe we should work with them. Like even before the AI change, if I start working with a partner agency that might send us clients who need help with SEO, I always warn them and say, half of the time I talk to somebody who wants us to help them with SEO, I tell them SEO is not the right tool for you and your business, right? And
Hmm.
so I just want to warn you of that, right?
Hmm.
In case you're expecting me to try to like sell them or something like that. When I do think it's the right tool, like I get excited about it, and they can feel that excitement, and that's why they sign the contract. But if
Yeah.
I don't think it's the right tool, then I'll definitely point them in a different direction.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I have that conversation so much with design too. I'm like, yeah, you can a redesign is going to look good, but it's not going to it's not going to drive traffic. Um
Yeah.
but anyway, that's I think that's really refreshing for me to hear, man. Just one to one is
Zooming in on something you said, I do think that people don't understand how quickly things are changing, and it's not anybody's fault because it's changing faster than honestly like any of us can really adjust to it.
mhm,
I'm spending half of my time, as I said, trying to understand how the technology is changing, how we need to work differently, and what the new opportunities are, and what opportunities are kind of shrinking or going away. And not everybody has half of their time to do that, right? In fact, like most people don't. I'm very fortunate that I can spend time
mhm,
trying to understand what's next. But things are changing really quickly, and I wish that I had good advice as to like how to keep up. Well, oh, actually, I think I do. Like the best way to keep up is to really understand that like it's on you, like you as a marketer at a in-house at a brand, or you as a consultant, you as an agency founder. It's on you personally to figure out what the new opportunities are. And the mistake I see people making is some people are just burying their heads in the sand. They're saying, "Yeah, it'll just emerge, right? Like, the
mhm.
new tool will come out. I'll switch to that tool, and then everything will be fine." No, no tool's going to save you. Sorry.
It's-
And then also, they might be in an organization where they feel like they've delegated that responsibility. We have a head of innovation, or we just hired this AI consultant, or maybe I'm running an agency, and I got a guy. He's really good at AI. He's doing all that stuff for me. That is
mhm.
not going to cut it because the opportunities are just much broader, or much bigger, much more, yeah, I guess much broader than that. Like if you're running a consultancy, it's going to be a new business model, not a new tool. And if you're an employee at an agency or in-house at a brand, it's going to be a new way of working. It's going to be you applying for a different job title that is better aligned with the new technology, or innovation, or internal entrepreneurship, something like that. That's the type of opportunity that you need to take advantage of. And you personally, regardless of what your role is, and regardless of what type of organization you're at, it's you personally who need to be seeking out that opportunity.
I think that's an awesome place to land the plane. But I want to point out something that you said there, I think 3 or 4 times, and that's the word opportunity. I did a lot of research for this episode. I've seen a lot of your talks, a lot of your keynotes. I can experience now the reason why people lean in and the reason why you will hold the seat of, trusted resource, trusted advisor. That word of opportunity, the positivity you have around, okay, everything is changing, but it's an opportunity to learn more, to improve. So I 100% understand now why you've gotten to where you are is because people resonate with that. It's very encouraging, especially when there might be a lot of animosity around what are the next steps. People who can very practically lay it out and say, okay, these are the opportunities that are in front of us, and we should be excited about how we can embrace them, how we can use them to leverage our own business to add value to our clients. That's very energizing to hear. So, dude, like I want to say a huge thank you. I see nothing but up and to the right for you and Fire&Spark and everything that you're doing. But is there any place that you want to promote, or any where should people go next after hearing this interview?
I would say, like, I'm always happy to give people my email. So I do a lot of these types of interviews, or we're doing a webinar or at a conference. Like, I'm always happy to take a look at what people are doing on their website. Like, a lot of people have existing content that they're trying to update for AI search, or they might be working on a content strategy. So just reach out to me directly. I mean, I'm on LinkedIn, but also I'm Dale at fireandspark.com. Fire and Spark spelled out. And I'm always happy to give you 30 minutes and take a look at whatever you're working on.